will inherit a polluted planet, and they will curse us for it. It is a disgrace, and you should be ashamed. This organisation has been described...
Excuse me, sir, can I just... We will have time for questions, and you're most welcome to make your comments.
This is an accusation. You are the chief arsonist. This organisation has been described as an arson, a financial arson organisation, and you are the chief arsonist. I don't know how you can sleep at night knowing that millions of people are going to starve to death because of the investments that this bank is making. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you. Please I'll continue. In recent weeks...
On COP26 in December 2021, an HSBC spokesperson said that you would set out a detailed plan to phase out the financing of thermal coal-fired power in EU and OECD countries by 2030 and worldwide by 2040. And yet, in January this year, the public learned that you gave a secret multi-million-dollar loan to an energy company that was bulldozing the village of Lützerath in western Germany to expand a huge coal mine. HSBC, you had deliberately covered up the deal to try to avoid public scrutiny and outrage. So it was a greenwash pledge. And you are happy to profit while the world burns. HSBC, stop the greenwash.
Hello and welcome to the XR UK live stream. My name is Suzanne Savage and I'll be presenting today. I'm surrounded by an amazing group of activists here outside the East Side rooms in Birmingham, where we are protesting the AGM from HSBC Bank. Now, HSBC Bank is one of those dirty banks that continues to invest in fossil fuels. And it's, again, one of these situations where people have been protesting, people have been sending in letters, writing petitions, having conversations with the bank, and they persist in funding the fossil fuel industry, which is responsible for so much destruction of our climate, our environment, our ecology, indigenous peoples, and the list goes on. So we are out here outside of that AGM, but I think you've just seen some amazing scenes from inside where we have very brave protesters who are standing up and disrupting that AGM. This is part of our strategy to say no more business as usual. The normal methods haven't worked. And so people have gone in, shareholders of HSBC, with a right to talk and with a right to stand up and call out what HSBC is doing, because it's really quite shocking. We talk a lot here today about greenwash, and that's a really important term, greenwash, because what it means is a bank is trying to, or an industry is trying to look like it's environmentally friendly, look like it's caring about the climate, but actually underneath that facade, they are still funding the destruction of everything that we hold dear. So greenwash is particularly important with HSBC. It's actually the only financial institution that has been sanctioned by the Advertising Standards Authority because of greenwashing. They had advertisements in October which pretended to show that they were terribly green and environmentally friendly, and of course they weren't. So the list of facts and figures of what HSBC is doing is really quite shocking, and I've had to bring my trusty notes here to make sure that I get the numbers right. But despite having made a pledge in December of last year that they were going to stop funding fossil fuels, they have, for example, funded $340 million, and so in just a few months since December, to help bulldoze the town of Lützerath in Germany, where they're making a massive open-cast coal mine. It's a disaster for the environment, and secretly HSBC is funding them. Last year, HSBC invested a total of $11 billion in fossil fuels. That's roughly 9 or 10 billion pounds. So these numbers are extraordinary. You know, we hear billions and we think, what actually is a billion? And there's 11 billion of them last year alone. So inside, we're going to keep cutting inside sometimes to see of the different people who are standing up and making their voices heard to the chairperson and to the other important members of HSBC board to let them know that it's time to stop the greenwash, it's time to stop funding fossil fuels. Out here we have some great XR protests happening. We've got the dirty scrubbers here who are here to tell HSBC to clean up their act. Would you like to show us a bit of what you've been doing today?
Yeah, get this bank clean. It's a really big job, isn't it? It's so filthy. We're never gonna get it clean.
Too much.
Too much. Not enough greenwash in the world.
And we're not being paid enough,
We're not getting paid enough. A little bit, that £9.5 billion pre-tax profits for the last quarter, £9 billion. That'll cover up a bit of genocide, won't it? HSBC, you're so filthy. We're gonna clean you with a bit of greenwash. We're so dirty. We're gonna clean you with a bit of greenwash.
You guys are fabulous. Yeah, so we're going to cut now and we'll come back a little bit later to see more of the excitement outside.
Grace, $12 billion. How can you possibly justify the way you're behaving? Our grandchildren will inherit a polluted planet and they will curse us for it. It is a disgrace and you should be ashamed. This organisation has been described...
Excuse me, sir, can I just... We will have time for questions and you're most welcome.
This is not about questions. This is an accusation. You are the chief arsonist. This organisation has been described as an arson, a financial arson organisation, and you are the chief arsonist. I don't know how you can sleep at night knowing that millions of people are going to starve to death because of the investments that this bank is making. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you.
Said that you would set out a detailed plan to phase out the financing of thermal coal-fired power in EU and OECD countries by 2030 and worldwide by 2040. And yet, in January this year, the public learned that you gave a secret multi-million-dollar loan to an energy company that was bulldozing the village of Lützerath in western Germany to expand a huge coal mine. HSBC, you had deliberately covered up the deal to try to avoid public scrutiny and outrage. So it was a greenwash pledge, and you are happy to profit while...
And we're back outside again. We've found ourselves a dirty banker, and our dirty scrubbers are cleaning up this dirty banker right now.
Stinks! Stinks of HSBC! It's not going away! God!
There we are, lovely. It's all your money. It's all your money. Oh, there we are. Do you give it back as well?
Everything behind your ears.
There we are, lovely. Everywhere.
That's where he keeps his money.
Oh, there we are.
Look at that.
Dirty banker indeed.
It's just as dirty as it used to be, but now it looks green. Oh.
He'll never come out of this, please.
There we are.
Look at the greenwash happening here.
Dry clean it or get that greenwash on.
HSBC, you're so filthy. We're gonna clean you with a bit of greenwash.
Okay, this is wonderful, guys. Thank you so much. I'd like to have a quick word with our banker here and tell me, what's your name, Mr. Banker?
I'm Kez.
This is Kez the banker.
And lovely to have you here. Yes,
Of course, the thing is with greenwashing is that it's just as dirty as it was before, but it looks clean, it looks green. And remember, all of these investments, all these billions of pounds, billions of dollars, billions of euros, it's all your money. All of that you're doing at home, recycling, whether you're using more public transport, it's all important, but it doesn't make a difference if they keep investing your money into fossil fuels. Billions and billions and billions, and that is exactly what they're doing. If you, your friends, your family, if you bank with HSBC, you need to pull your money out and you need to let them know why. You need to fill up their customer complaints departments, you need to send them emails, you need to call them, because it's all just greenwash. They all just look green, they all look environmentally friendly, but they're not. Pull your money out and tell other people to do the same, because they can't do it without your money. They pretend it's theirs, but it's yours. Oh.
Thank you so much. We're going to let him continue to luxuriate in his greenwash bath while the dirty scrubbers do their best to clean him up. But the dirty scrubbers can't really clean up what's happening in HSBC. One of the things that's been really exciting about this protest is that there's a lot of different groups involved, just like with the big one. Continuing on with linking up with other groups has been really, really important. As the delegates were coming in, we actually had quite a large contingent from the Unite Union who were complaining about what HSBC is doing with their pensions. There are all these different ways that money is being invested in fossil fuels. There are so many different levels to protest against the fossil fuel industry on. We have the government refusing to put in proper regulations. We have the banks like HSBC who are investing in fossil fuels. We have the pension companies. So our retirements are literally fueling the destruction of the future generations. So we're here with whole groups that are protesting that. We're going to go back inside now.
These most monstrous of crimes of destruction. The whole world's on the line. You think profit while Earth's dying. HSBC, now get your money out of HSBC. They're selling greenwash and lies while foreign investors complicit up to your eyes. It's multinational. It's selling greenwash and lies. Well, it's your money drives this highway to hell for your children and for man as well. So HSBC, now get your money out of HSBC. They're trying to keep it subliminal.
Shareholders are attending today now to look at the business of the meeting. There will be opportunities for you. As I was saying, we are...
The crimes of destruction, the whole world's on the line. You think profit while Earth's dying. HSBC, they're selling greenwashers. The crimes of crime.
The opportunity to address the board.
We fully understand that this is a very important issue to those members of the Midland Clawback campaign. But our position has consistently been and remains that removal of the state
HSBC, profiting while
constituting retrospective
we've had
change
enough of your greenwash.
that would benefit a particular group of members.
No more coal, no more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil. You are liars. We are sick of your greenwash. You are a dirty bank, HSBC. The dirtiest of dirty banks.
Can I ask you to sit down, sir, please?
True. I am here as a parent, and you are stealing my children's future away from them. How dare you? How dare you, HSBC? People in the global south are dying today, right now, because of your policies. Pakistan, Indonesia.
Sir, shareholders are attending this meeting. Please, there will be plenty of time for discussion.
Misery of others. You have blood on your hands. Genocide is what is being committed. Climate genocide. How dare you?
Shame on you. Shame on you, HSBC.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we'll turn this off.
Okay, we're back live outside, and I've got somebody with me who you may have just seen on camera who's just been taken out of HSBC. Can you tell us what happened in there? What did you do? What's going on?
Yeah, we sat down, and there was a lot of security there. There was security sat next to us, but we very slowly managed to pull out different props. And the two of us, myself and Sarah, we did some greenwashing sketches with HSBC. We sang a song by the Specials talking about bringing better things and stopping fossil fuels because it's killing people. I was asked to leave. I didn't leave. And I accused the board of genocide, that they were hiding investment in fossil fuels when they were saying that they were not investing in fossil fuels. I was asked more strongly to leave. I told them they'd got blood on their hands, so made some noise. It's part of a group of a number of people and a number of people that are still in there. Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like it's still ongoing in there, so we're looking forward to getting more reports. How did it feel to actually stand up and do that and kind of break societal norms, if you will?
I mean, nerve-wracking to actually stand up and do that to start with. I think once we actually got going, then that was good, and I think it was really important just to remind people of the dramatic things that are not dramatic, but the reality of actually people dying. It's like it's so unconnected with that meeting as people feel it, that they have to, they really need to be given a feeling of what it really is like when people, across the world are now starving because of HSBC's investment in fossil fuels. They need to connect that, and they don't feel it. So I hope we shifted things a little bit today for people to actually feel what's happening and why they need to change. Yeah.
You were literally impossible to ignore in that moment, weren't you? And you broke business as usual. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing what you did and coming and talk to us. Go have a good cup of tea now.
Yeah. Thank you. I might join the Greenwashers here. Yeah, doing a good job. Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody outside here keeping the atmosphere, as always, with everything in Extinction Rebellion, keeping the atmosphere jovial, a sense of humour to it, and humour, though, with a cutting edge, a humour that's really telling the truth. And we must remember that's always our first demand, that we have to tell the truth. And that's what this group is trying to say, to tell the truth about the HSBC greenwash, how they're pretending to be a company that cares about the environment. They're joining things like a financial alliance in Glasgow, supposedly to stop investing, and yet they continue the fossil fuel investments. So I'm looking around to see if we've got anybody else. We've got some other folks over here who would like to speak to us.
So we've got the lady from the Philippines, and then these people.
Please escort these persons from the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me for a minute. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, do you want us to leave now? Because you asked us to do some greenwashing. You asked us to do some greenwashing. What was that? There's more scrubbing to be done. It's so dirty. All this coal and oil. Oh no!
I tell you, let's invest just in companies, fossil fuel companies. Greenwash, that's what it is. Projects, fossil fuel companies. Greenwash, that's what it is. Projects. Oh, we won't invest in projects. Oh no! Fossil fuel projects. What about the companies? It's a lie. Look on your hands. Oh, Burns, we've had enough of your greenwash.
That would benefit a particular group.
No more coal, no more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil.
Coal, all that oil. Oh, it's a terrible mess.
My goodness.
I'll tell you what, should we send a message message to HSBC. Stop your messing around. Oh, better think of the future. Oh, coal and oil. Oh no! Look,
I tell you,
And here we are back again outside the East Side rooms where the HSBC AGM is going on inside. I've got two people here from a divestment movement. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Stephen.
You're Stephen?
And I'm Ed.
And you're Ed. And what's the group you're with?
Divest West Midland Pension Fund.
Divest West Midland Pension Fund. Excellent. And what are you doing here today in front of HSBC?
Well, obviously, the West Midlands Pension Fund is our home turf, and we met a different divestment campaigner from Shropshire at an action with the National Divestment Day. She told us about the action that was going to happen here. We got in on the group chat. We came down to support what you were doing today because we fully approve it, obviously.
That's wonderful. So are the pension funds then managed by HSBC, or what's the connection to them?
The West Midlands Pension Fund is the 7 local authorities and a number of other companies and organisations around the West Midlands. So it's Birmingham City Council, Wolverhampton City Council, Solihull, Dudley, etc., etc. And then there's other associated. BCU is also part of the pension fund, though it is controlled by the councillors, and the investments are in some banks and also things like fossil fuel companies.
Right, and I'm seeing a Shell T-shirt here. So obviously Shell and the dirty fossil fuel companies are part of this picture then?
Yes, I mean, West Midlands pension funds, give them some credit, they are, moving away from fossil fuels, but they still very much have a policy of talking and engaging with the industry. So, they really need to divest. Divestment is a very effective way of moving funds away from fossil fuels into the new technologies that we need. And it's been proven to work. It actually it does affect the stock market of the whole fossil fuel industry when the divestment announcement goes out. So, West Midlands Pension Fund is one of the biggest pension funds in the country. It's a £20 billion pension fund. And so when they make a move to divest, which we're hoping they will do at some point in the future, then it will send out big signals to the market.
Wonderful, thank you. Go ahead.
I mean, recently with the local government pension fund, they wanted to vote against one of the top people at BP renewing his mandate because they'd reduced their commitment from 30% to 20% in the reduction of their fossil fuel emissions, their carbon emissions. But even though they were very powerful and represented a third of the British workforce, it was just ignored. They were overpowered, and the other people went along. So our argument, although the West Midlands Pension Fund is very progressive, is moving very much in the direction, they still believe in engagement. Well, there's an example of engagement. You engage with them, they ignore you.
And that's where we come to really our second demand, which is act now, not act in 10 years, not act in 20 years, not act in 30 years. The problem with the fossil fuel industry is that right now, people are dying across the world. Indigenous people are being thrown off their lands. The environmental costs of this are astounding. And of course, the climate cost with carbon is something that we can't bear. And so I think what I'm hearing from you is that this constructive engagement sounds all nice and friendly, but it's actually, again, one of those veils that we can pretend to be having constructive conversations, and under the table, we just keep funding fossil fuels.
Too slow. It's fundamentally too slow. Business as usual has passed its sell-by date. We need to move to a new model, and continuing to prop up these industries and hope they're changed when they're fundamentally about the extraction of fossil fuels and the burning of fossil fuels seems rather naive.
That seems like a great note to end it on there. Oh, we've got somebody else coming out who's been inside. So let's see here. Big cheers for someone who's just stood up on the inside. I'm with the Facebook live stream. I'm wondering if we can have a chat with you. Here's the sign that you just bravely held up. And security asking you to come up. And somebody else is coming out as well. So do you feel like you can have a quick word with us? How did it go in there?
Yeah, good. Weird. it's not what I normally spend my Fridays doing, but we gave them the message that we needed to give them, that basically that their investments are killing people around the world. And that's what they need to know. And they're smart. They understand that. They've read the science. So I don't understand why they think they can get away with it.
I think this remains to be the mystery of all of us, is how, knowing the science, they can continue on with business as usual.
Exactly. They just have their heads in the sand, but they're also looking at the profits going up. They look at the bank balances. They're just like, this is great. We're making billions. As I said to them, I was like, you can be as rich as you are, but there are no banker bonuses on a dead planet, and it's true. I mean, it's like, it sounds flippant, but it's true. We are on a pathway towards going past 1.5 degrees. It's going to affect us, it's going to affect me, it's going to affect my kids, but it's also affecting people right now in Africa, Indonesia, Pakistan, all over the world. And we have an El Nino this year, and it's only going to get worse.
I dread what the summer's going to be.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the science, you look at the weather, you look at the climate, you look at the fact that we're at 423 parts per million, and you're just like, why is nobody listening? It's just insane. So
it
that's
feels
why we're
insane.
here, to tell them that this is insane and it has to stop. Because otherwise they just think it's business as usual and they continue. So,
well, thank you for disrupting business as usual. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and do that. So thank you.
Well, brilliant activists here today. Thank you for
there.
Yeah. Big cheers and support. I've got somebody else who's just come from outside. Is the adrenaline running through you now?
It's just beginning to kind of drop slightly. It's quite an interesting process to go through. But, it's just another gig.
So what were you doing inside there?
Well, I sang. I stood up and sang a version of, YMCA, HSBC. It lends itself so nicely, so... So I think they were trying not to evict us, but to just sort of play it cool. But quite honestly, we were stunningly effective. Every 2 or 3 minutes up we got, and in the end you could see they were losing their cool. It was clearly their policy just to kind of minimise what we were doing, but actually after a while they just couldn't. So now we're being chucked out one by one, But, and some of the things actually got applause from some of the people in there. So,
wow, that's quite extraordinary that some of the regular delegates were applauding.
Well, a few were, yeah. But, then they started to get fed up with us and all that and wanted to get on with their business. But, I'm really pleased we could have a presence outside. And, it gets you a bit when you feel like you're in the heart of the beast. It's actually these people, and they sit in front of you in these kind of rows with all their names, on them. There's definitely a sort of mega sort of power intimidating number going on. And it's interesting as well.
All these cheers and more people coming out, by the way.
Well, and it's just interesting reading the biogs, because you get all this information and you look at the biogs of the people that are up there on the platform and they've got their fingers in hundreds of pies internationally, particularly in Asia, I noticed. So, it's a filthy, filthy business. And, I'm glad if we cause them a bit of...
You caused them a bit of... They had to be confronted with what they're doing, and we know that this one thing won't do it. But again and again and again, we're showing them they can't hide.
I agree. We just have to keep coming in from every angle, and it's the kind of accumulation of things, not just XR or just Stop Oil, but, so many different organisations coming in from different angles. We just have to keep going.
Thank you so much for your contribution to it. Wonderful. We've got some...
We are sick of your greenwash. You are a dirty bank, HSBC. The dirtiest of dirty banks.
Can I ask you to sit down, sir, please?
True. I am here as a parent, and you are stealing my children's future away from them. How dare you? How dare you, HSBC? People in the global south are dying today, right now, because of your policies. Pakistan, Indonesia.
So shareholders attending this meeting, please, there will be plenty of time for discussion.
Of the misery of others. You have blood on your hands. Genocide is what is being committed. Climate genocide. How dare you? Shame on you. Shame on you, HSBC. Do you think your profits will will save you from climate breakdown. There are no banker bonuses.
Sir, you are continuing to disrupt this meeting. I ask you for a final time to stop and resume your seat or leave the hall. If you persist, I have no alternative but to have you.
And here we are back again outside. You might be hearing some more people come out shortly. They seem to be ejecting more people. But I've got somebody who's been doing some great work outside here as well from a different group. Can you tell me who you are and what group you're with?
Yeah, hi, I'm Avril de Torres. I'm from Protect Verde Island Passage, or Protect VIP. And we are a coalition of fisherfolk group, frontline communities opposing fossil gas projects, and environmental organizations based in the Philippines, protecting Verde Island Passage and just opposing destructive activities and projects being proposed in this area.
So what kind of activities are they proposing to do in this passage?
Unfortunately, there's massive plants of fossil gas and liquefied natural gas projects being proposed, both power plants and terminals.
Wow, so they're really, really looking at pulling out all the stops and probably causing damage to a beautiful, pristine area, as well as contributing to the fossil fuel economy.
Definitely. For those who aren't familiar, Verde Island Passage is the center of marine shorefish biodiversity. It's inside the Coral Triangle, which is the center of marine biodiversity in the world. So it's this rich marine habitat, which is unfortunately also the epicenter of gas expansion in the Philippines.
That just sounds so destructive. It's one of these areas that if we don't protect it now, it's gone forever, isn't it?
Definitely, and it's going to affect millions of Filipinos who depend on it for their food, for their livelihoods, and basically for their lives.
So it's again one of these situations that we see in so many places, that the gas extraction, the oil extraction, which in many ways fuels the lifestyles that we have here, is coming at the expense of Filipinos and their way of life, which is just something that we absolutely need to stop.
Yes, but just to clarify as well, what's being proposed are power plants and terminals. But these terminals are not just going to be for import, it's also for export, because our own government is proposing it to be a transshipment hub. So we're going to be supplying whatever LNG is coming into the country. It's also going to be used to supply to other countries as well.
Right. And does this have a link directly into HSBC, or are you just here as a general fossil fuel protest?
There is a link. So the biggest fossil gas developer in the country is San Miguel Corporation, and then Shell is also proposing an LNG terminal. Both of these companies are proposing projects in Verde Island Passage, and we know HSBC is financing these corporations.
Wow, so it's really, really important that HSBC hears this message and that we all stand together with you in opposing this extremely destructive plan.
Yes, and I have a colleague who's inside right now, about to share our story while we traveled all the way from the Philippines and ask a question. You know, most of the time we hear these banks, because we also participated in Standard Chartered and Barclays AGM, and we hear them saying, we can talk about our clients, or we're not involved in direct project finance. But the reality is we don't care if it's project finance, if it's general corporate finance, whatever type of finance it is, as long as it's bankrolling these types of projects, then we want them to stop.
Absolutely, 100%. I hope that your colleague on the inside gets a chance to really make that point and that they're heard. And we'd love to speak to them afterwards if we can. You can send them our way.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much for also lending us an opportunity to talk to all of the viewers here and share this story from thousands of miles away. And we're here traveling and going through all this effort. And we hope as many people would hear this message and help us protect VIP.
We stand in solidarity with you. Good luck.
Thank you.
HSBC, stop your messing around. Better think of the future.
I ask you for a final time to stop and resume your seat or leave the hall. If you persist, I have no alternative but to have you escorted from the meeting.
A message to HSBC. A message to HSBC. Stop your messing around.
to continue any longer, as chairman of this meeting, it is my duty to ensure that order is maintained so that business is properly conducted. Will the stewards please escort these persons from the meeting? Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me for a minute. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, do you want us to leave now? Because you want staff to do some greenwashing. We haven't done it all greenwashing yet. Oh, we've got lots more scrubbing. Yeah, lots more scrubbing.
Investing in the destruction of the planet. You're investing in the third world being slowly burned, drowned, starved to death. It's time you change your policies. It's time you started investing in a planet that my grandchildren can live in. Please do not focus on economic growth at the cost of us all and my children and your children.
Well, I just say, I think we will come back and address this, but can I just say that shareholders are here to attend the meeting today to consider important business.
We are shareholders.
And if you keep acting in the manner and don't resume your seat, we will ask you to leave. So please could you, we will come to you if you have a question. We are more than happy to answer those questions.
My question is, when will you stop investing in fossil fuel companies? Saudi Aramco, biggest oil producer in the world. This is where your profits are coming from, HSBC. Sustainable green lending. What's it being spent on? Pipelines, oil rigs, mines. That is a sustainable spending. You are pushing the world beyond 1.5 degrees. Do you understand the science? Have you read the science? Have you read the UN IPCC report? Do you understand what the International Energy Agency is saying about the need to stop investment in fossil fuels to keep 1.5 degrees? Do you think your profits will save you from climate breakdown? There are no banknotes.
Sir, just you are continuing to disrupt this meeting. I ask you for a final time to stop and resume your seat or leave the hall. If you persist, I have no alternative but to have you escorted from the meeting. As I have said, our current strategy is working. It is improving our performance and increasing your dividends. You should not put this at risk. And that is why the board is unanimous in recommending that you vote against resolutions 17 and 18.
Did someone call for some greenwash? Blimey, it's dirty here, isn't it? Now time to get some scrubbing done. Scrub away all that coal, all that oil. Oh, it's a terrible mess.
My goodness.
I'll tell you what, should we send a message to HSBC? Stop your messing around. Oh, better think of the future.
I ask you for a final time to stop and resume your seat or leave the hall. If you persist, I have no alternative but to have you escorted from the meeting.
A message to HSBC. A message to HSBC. Stop your messing around. Oh, better think of the future. Oh,
I'm sorry, I cannot allow this to continue any longer. As chairman of this meeting, it is my duty to ensure that order is maintained so that business is properly conducted. Will the stewards please escort these persons from the meeting? Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me for a minute. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, do you want us to leave now? Because you asked us to do some greenwashing. We haven't done it all greenwashing yet. Oh, we've got lots more to do, lots more scrubbing. Yeah, lots more scrubbing to be done. It's so dirty.
I tell you, let's invest just in companies, fossil fuel companies. projects? Oh no! Fossil fuel projects. What about companies? It's a lie. Look on your hands. Greenwash. Need to find a different way to make profit. Blood on your hands. Greenwash. It's a disgrace. We've been asked to leave. We come here. We've been asked to come and do some greenwash for you. Do some greenwash. That's what you'd like, isn't it? Cover it all up. Let's not talk about it. It's a little bit embarrassing. Invested in fossil fuels when you say you're not. Even your own employees are saying it. Oh dear. Embarrassing.
Great. We're back here outside again, and I've got one of these brave protesters who's been inside speaking truth to power in there. What's your name, love?
My name's Chris.
Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Do you want to tell me what happened inside?
I think what I found the most interesting was when some of us actually stood up and talked, there was applause from across the audience. There were a load of other people in there clearly understanding our message and clearly agreeing with us. And that was really very interesting and very heartening to hear. I was very pleased about that. It's not just a one-way street. You know, there are more people who are understanding that this bank is greenwashing and it's got to stop.
What we know is that 81% of the British public know that we're in a climate emergency, and we're starting to see people then, they're hearing this message and they're really responding to it, aren't they?
They are. And one bit of a message that I'm very keen to talk to people about, and I find people understand, is to compare what the banks are doing with addiction. So, you know, our society is addicted to fossil fuels. If you had a child who was addicted to hard drugs, and the doctor said, you know, this is going to really damage your future, it may well kill you, you would do everything you could to stop that, to help that child break their addiction. What you wouldn't do is give them money so that they could go and find more sources of the drugs. But that's what the banks are doing in the fossil fuels. So the banks are funding our society's addiction to fossil fuels. And we know that you can either have a livable planet or you can put more carbon in the atmosphere. You can't do both. It's one or the other. And this bank is on the wrong side of history.
Can't say it more clearly than that. That's. I hope you did. Is that the message that you stood up and delivered?
That's the message I gave. And I also mentioned the horrific actions or the comments from the person who was head of their responsible investments as late as May 2022. So Stuart Kirk actually said, at a big bank like ours, the end term is 6 years. What happens to the planet in year 7 is actually irrelevant. I don't care. That's what he actually said. And okay, so he's not on the board anymore. But what I wanted to know was who signed off that presentation? Who appointed him to that post with his opinions on climate? So, you know, that attitude really sums up the attitude of this bank. They are pure greenwash.
And that really reminds me of one of the shocking statistics I've seen in this, in that HSBC has a sustainability fund with $1 trillion worth of investment. And in $1 trillion, I don't think any of us here can actually understand what $1 trillion is, a huge sum of money. And that's a supposedly sustainable investment, like your chap here was, and it's funding fossil fuel rigs and all sorts of different parts of the fossil fuel industry. It is this bank absolutely excels in taking support for the climate crisis and calling it sustainable, calling it green.
Yeah. Well, very recently, HSBC says the words, it says good stuff, but its actions are completely opposite to that. So it said it was not going to fund any more coal, and then 3 months later, it puts funding into the expanding the coal mine in Germany.
Yeah.
It's absolute greenwashing, and it's appalling.
Well, thank you so much for coming to this action, for standing up, going in there. It takes some bravery to stand up and do that.
On behalf of all of us, we're all here for the same reason. It's an honour to be here with everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Old firms, we've had enough of your greenwash.
That would benefit a particular group
No
of
more coal, No more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil.
May 2022, your head of responsible investment at the time, that was Stuart Kirk, stated, at a big bank like ours, the average loan term is 6 years. What happens to the planet in 7 years is actually irrelevant. I don't care. He further declared HSBC's commitment to net zero carbon emissions in 2050, while simultaneously pouring billions into expanding fossil fuel infrastructure. He later resigned, but who signed off his presentation? Who appointed him to that post with those opinions on the climate? Your pretense to be climate conscious and committed to net zero to greenwash is just greenwash. It's greenwash. You are funding our societies.
You are funding genocide, HSBC.
Funding us. You are funding addiction to fossil fuels.
You understand what 1.5
funding fossil fuels.
You understand that beyond that is a death.
You had a child who was addicted to hard drugs. You would not fund them. You would not give them more money. You are funding fossil fuel addiction. We can either have more carbon in the atmosphere or we can have a livable planet. We don't get both. It's physics. There's no arguing with it. It's a livable planet or it's more carbon.
We intend to consider the payment of a special dividend of 20.
HSBC, you have your foot on that accelerator. You have your foot on that accelerator. You are taking us to climate hell. You are taking us to climate hell. I am quoting the words of the UN Secretary General. He has issued warning after warning after warning. We are at the last opportunity to make any change, to make any difference. Everyone here, you can act on your conscience. Everyone here, act on your conscience for the sake of your children, your grandchildren.
As I said, the first priority use of the Canada proceeds will be a dividend of 21 cents per share once the transaction closes.
I'm here with a veteran peace activist, climate activist, anti-fossil fuel activist, Quakers for Climate Justice. What brought you here today?
I'm coming here for the AGM of HSBC Bank, and to be part of this non-violent civil resistance to what they're doing, non-violent civil resistance to fossil fuel corporations and to all those that enable them, among which is HSBC.
Wonderful. This is not exactly your first gig with this, is it?
It's not. It's a matter of social justice, climate justice. This affects people all over the planet, and particularly people in the global south. We've been hearing from somebody from the Philippines whose environment is being trashed by fossil fuel corporations, and fossil fuel corporations are being funded. They couldn't do their job without being funded by banks, institutions like HSBC, Barclays, and such like.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that really sums up everything what we're doing, and that amplifying the message from the global south that the crisis isn't something in the future. The crisis is something that's happening right now, and the people inside that building are the ones responsible.
And I'd like to make one point that people in the global south very often are not in a position to be able to do these, to take non-violent civil resistance because of the repression in their countries. In here, we have this ability to do that. This is Britain. So we can do these things. And I think this is a matter of using your privilege. I want everybody out there to use your privilege to act while you can before the law becomes tighter and you're not allowed to do these things.
That's wonderful. So that we're going to be wrapping up. We're going to go back inside, and that's going to end our live stream. This has been a really inspirational protest of people coming together and saying loudly and clearly to HSBC that there's no more funding for fossil fuels. We have to stop this destructive economy because the people are dying now, people will continue to die, the environment, we can't get it back. So thank you for being with us. Continue your work, because this is still just the beginning. We haven't turned the tide yet, and we must continue to stand up and resist while we can. Thank you.
Starve to death. It's time you change your policies. It's time you started investing in a planet that my grandchildren can live in. Please do not focus on the economic growth at the cost of us all and my children and your children.
Can I just say, I think we will come back and address this, but can I just say that shareholders are here to attend the meeting today to consider important business.
We are shareholders.
And if you keep acting in the manner and don't resume your seat, we will ask you to leave. So please could you, we will come to you. If you have a question, we are more than happy to answer those questions.
My question is, when will you stop investing in fossil fuel companies? Saudi Aramco, biggest oil producer in the world. This is where your profits are coming from, HSBC. Sustainable green lending. What's it being spent on? Pipelines, oil rigs, mines. That isn't sustainable spending. You are pushing the world beyond 1.5 degrees. Do you understand the science? Have you read the science? Have you read the UN IPCC report? Do you understand what the International Energy Agency is saying about the need to stop investment in fossil fuels at 1.5 degrees? Do you think your profits will save you from climate breakdown? There are no banker bonuses.
Sir, just you are continuing to disrupt this meeting. I ask you for a final time to stop and resume your seat or leave the hall. If you persist, I have no alternative but to have you escorted from the meeting.
Yeah.
As I have said, our current strategy is working. It is improving our performance and increasing your dividends. You should not put this at risk. And that is why the board is unanimous in recommending that you vote against resolutions 17 and 18.
This someone call for some greenwash? Blimey, it's dirty in here, isn't it? Not time to get some scrubbing done. Scrub away all that coal, that oil. Oh, it's a terrible mess. I'll tell you what, should we send a message to HSBC? Stop your racing around. Oh, better think of the future.
I ask you for a final time to stop and resume your seat or leave the hall. If you persist, I have no alternative but to have you escorted from the meeting.
A message to HSBC. A message to HSBC. Stop your messing around. Oh, better think of the